Hello, everybody, and welcome to you with your curiosity. Welcome with your longing to be well. Welcome with all that you are and all that you've been through. I hope that this summit that we'll be starting today will be a turning point moment in your life. I am Ocean Robbins, co-founder and CEO of Food Revolution Network, welcoming you to the 2025 Food Revolution Summit docuseries. And I am so glad that you are here. We'll be beginning episode 1 in about 15 minutes. More than 100,000 people have signed up for this relaunch. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here right now. This Summit docuseries first aired in April, and the response was incredible. Thousands of people told us it changed their lives. We knew we had to bring it back because these insights and stories are too powerful to just share once. Since our April launch, something huge happened in my life. My beloved dad, John Robbins, passed away on June 11th. He was my father. He was my dear friend. He was my colleague. And he was the co-founder of Food Revolution Network with me. He was my co-host in the first 12 Food Revolution summits that we held. And while my heart is still broken open with grief, I'm also filled with a deep sense of purpose because I know in my bones that this work we are doing together matters. And I know that the torch my dad carried for more than 40 years, first as a voice in the wilderness, and then later as a voice in a choir, as a best-selling author, as a food movement leader, that torch is now in all of our hands. I am so glad to be here with you now for these next 8 days, as we learn about the power of food to change lives, to change our health, to change our future. If you care about what you eat, if you care about your health, if you want to prevent illness, if you want to thrive in your life, you're so in the right place. If you want a healthy body, if you want a healthy mind, if you want a healthy world, you are in the right place. If you want a stronger immune system and better sleep and clearer skin and better digestion, or if you're wanting to prevent Alzheimer's or cancer or heart disease or type 2 diabetes or obesity or any of the other leading chronic health challenges of our times, you are in the right place. We'll officially be starting in about 12 minutes, and I'll be here with you live again after every episode, including today, to share reflections and highlights and to answer your questions. As we move through the summit, please post and engage in the comment section on our broadcast page. You can refresh the comments using the button provided there so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. You can share your top takeaways, your aha moments, your breakthroughs. Of course, today you can also share what you're hoping to get out of this summit, and you can share your questions. At the end of every episode, I'll be on live to answer more questions and engage with you, and I am looking forward to every minute of it. Tyler said, tropical greetings from Panama. Hello, Tyler. Welcome from Panama. We have people from all over the world here. Francis said, I'm from Provo, Utah. I'm happily anticipating participating fully in this year's Food Revolution docuseries. Since I came upon the Food Revolution Summit and other programs, I have followed and gained a lot of support to continue a disciplined, plant-based healthy eating diet for managing my diabetes. Thank you so much, Ocean, and my condolences on the passing of your dad and colleague, John. I celebrate John's life and his contributions to life. Oh, Francis, thank you for sharing that. I too celebrate my dad's life and his contributions to all of our lives and to life on earth. What an incredible example he laid out for us of integrity and values and purpose and conviction. For those who don't know, my grandpa Irvin Robbins founded an ice cream company. It was called Baskin Robbins, and my dad John grew up with an ice cream cone-shaped swimming pool in the backyard. He was groomed to one day join in running the family business. But when he was in his early 20s, he was offered that chance, and he said no, and he walked away from a path that was practically paved with gold and ice cream to, as we would jokingly put it in our family, follow his own rocky road. And he ended up moving with my mom to a little island off the coast of Canada where they built this one-room log cabin, practiced yoga and meditation for several hours a day, grew most of their own food, lived on less than $1,000 a year, and named their kid Ocean. And they almost named me Kale. This is way before kale was cool. But we did eat a lot of kale and cabbage and carrots and other veggies from the garden. In time, my dad researched the food industry in which he'd grown up, wound up becoming a best-selling author with the publication of Diet for a New America in 1987. The media called him the rebel without a cone. One of his readers ended up being my grandpa Irv, who credited my dad's work with saving his life, helping him reverse diabetes, as well as cardiovascular disease and obesity. My grandpa ended up feeling a whole lot better, getting off all of his diabetes and blood pressure medications, and his golf game improved 7 strokes. He lived 19 more healthy years, so we really saw in our family the power of food to change health outcomes and destiny. My dad was a trailblazer and inspiration to millions, and also in so many ways a wonderful father. So thank you so much for acknowledging him, Francis, and for being a part of this journey. And I'm so glad that you are on this path and it's helping you manage your diabetes. We hear that story so much, that diabetes is preventable and in many cases reversible with diet and lifestyle. You're going to learn a lot more about that here. Tenzin said, love and gratitude from Kathmandu, Nepal. Stay well, Tenzin. Oh, Tenzin, so good to hear from you and that you are with us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Paula said, question, will we be able to watch a replay for 24 hours after each webcast? I live in Hawaii, where it will start at 5 a.m. Well, Paula, welcome if you're here live or watching the replay. As for everybody to know, great to be on live if you can, so you can feel the energy, respond in real time with the community that's participating, and ask questions that I can answer in the live broadcast. But if that doesn't work, there will be a replay of all of our broadcasts that will start once each day's broadcast completes and be available until the following morning when we get ready for the next broadcast. So it's about 21 hours that replays are live. And by the way, during the replay window, we also have 3 expert interviews, 3 full-length interviews from experts who are featured in that day's episode that you'll have available to you for free on the broadcast page. Or if you are a customer of the empowerment package, then of course you'll have all 45 expert interviews, not just the ones we aired during the summit, and you'll have them for life. Folks, I hope that these sessions and this journey that we are about to take together is a landmark moment in your life. I hope that what you learn will stir your heart and will move you toward the future that you want to create for yourself, for your family, and for your world. If you just joined us, we'll be starting episode 1 in the Food Revolution Summit docuseries in about 7 minutes. I'm Ocean Robbins, CEO of Food Revolution Network, and your host for the summit. Thousands of people are gathering right now from all around the globe. It's a beautiful wave of energy and intention and commitment. If you can feel it, then let yourself sense that. You're not alone. You know, it can be easy to feel a little bit isolated in a toxic food culture where all around us, junk food is normalized and subsidized and advertised and mainstreamized. Twinkies has 14 subsidized ingredients. Broccoli has got none. So in that context, it can feel like fighting an uphill battle or swimming upstream just to eat simple, basic, wholesome food for your family. But you don't have to do it alone. And that's why it's so awesome that you are here right now to get support from the 45 brilliant experts in this summit and to feel the wave of community and fellow participants that are standing up for a healthy, conscious, purposeful food future. Linda said, watching from the Nebraska prairie where we can grow almost anything in our backyard and do. How awesome, Linda. I love that you are growing food. That is one of the most powerful food revolutionary acts that there is. Patrice said, hello everyone. I'm excited to learn how I can improve my health by making better food choices. Patrice, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm excited for you to learn as well. You are in the right place. Phil said, I'm excited to learn about the latest in nutrition science. You will, Phil. You're going to learn a lot here in this summit. This is not just basic level stuff here. The 45 experts in this summit are at the top of the field. And we want to share with you all what's really going on with our food choices, what the latest research tells us, and what it means for your life. Gail said, I just want to stay healthy and fit, and I'm always looking to learn new things. Gail, you're in the right place. I love learning new things too. One of my favorite sayings is, in the world to come, the learners shall inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves exquisitely prepared for a world that no longer exists. I think that we often glorify being learned, but I think that the future belongs to those who are never going to stop being curious and learning. So everybody here, you've taken a bold step by saying, I want to learn. I want to grow. And curiosity, I believe, is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. So think about, what do you want to learn here? What does it mean for your life? What's on the line? What's at stake? And what are you hoping this summit will give to you? And I think you will find that what you want here will be profoundly fulfilled many times over. You know, folks, we live in strange times in the world. And in the face of so much struggle and conflict, in the face of war and chronic disease and loneliness and political instability and chaos and violence and environmental problems and rising food insecurity, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed. Some of the challenges we face in the world today can seem unconfrontable, maybe even unfaceable. A lot of people wonder, is there hope? Well, we say yes. Not the kind of hope that waits, the kind of hope that acts. Because when it comes to food, you are holding the steering wheel of your own life. You can make choices that ripple out to your health, your family, your community, and your future. And that's what this summit is all about. We will begin episode 1 in just about 3 minutes. The focus today is embracing vitality at every stage of life. You're going to discover science-backed habits to stay strong and vibrant and energized across the decades. We'll explore the world's healthiest communities, uncover what makes them tick, and look at how your food choices can help you stay sharp and energized and alive with purpose, no matter your age. Today's episode touches on brain health, eyesight, menopause, sexual health, digestion, and longevity. You'll hear from some of the world's top doctors and researchers. After the episode completes, I'll be back with you live to share key takeaways, answer questions, and offer some bonus insights and tools. Right now, you are part of a powerful convergence, a global community of people who care, who are hungry for truth, who want to live with integrity, and who are taking a stand for health for themselves and health for their communities, their family, and their world. Let's keep this a kind, respectful, and welcoming space. Whether you're new or you've been with us for years, we're in this together, and this is your food revolution. So as you post and comment and engage on the broadcast page, make sure to be respectful and also welcoming. You can reply to people, to thank them, to welcome them, to support them. We are truly building the fabric of love and community right here, right now in this summit. We'll be starting episode 1 in just a couple minutes. Thousands are already here. And as we move through the day, I want to invite you to introduce yourself in the comments on the broadcast page. Let us know where you're joining from and one thing you're hoping to get from this summit. And if you don't see the latest comments, just refresh the comments with the button provided there so you can see the latest ones. Maria said, I'm very excited to hear any new knowledge about nutrition. Sometimes I still struggle with making better food choices to keep healthy. With love from Hungary. Welcome, Maria. So glad you're joining us from Hungary. Yes, a lot of us struggle. You know, there's a difference between knowing what to do and doing what we know. And in this summit, we're going to talk about both. And we're also going to give you a lot of tools to help you implement what you learn. Because at the end of the day, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, dementia, they don't care a whole lot how much you know. They care a whole lot what you eat and how you live. Melanie said, so happy to watch this again. I just had surgery and I'm stuck at home with nothing to do. This is the best thing for me right now. Oh, Melanie, I'm so glad you're here. Well, you got something to do. You're part of this summit. Darlene said hello from Nova Scotia, Canada. All right, folks, it looks like it's almost time for us to get started with episode 1. As the episode unfolds, anytime you hear something you especially like, go ahead and share it in the comment section so others can see it too. After the episode, I'll be on live with you again to answer questions and reflect with you some more. Here we go.
The food revolution is ultra important.
The food revolution is an opportunity to change your life for the better.
What if food could be your medicine?
Learn how to eat to live a longer life.
If you want longevity, then focus on life-giving nutrition.
The food revolution is happiness.
The food revolution is vital for human health and the planet.
What if food could change everything?
What if food could reduce your risk of cancer?
What if your food choices could shape the future?
Now is the time for change. Say yes to the change you want to see.
Now is the time to take charge of your life.
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
It's time for a food revolution.
The food revolution starts now.
The food revolution starts now.
The food revolution starts now, baby.
We're all gonna die. Whether it's in 10 minutes or in 10 decades, death is an inevitable fact of life. But when it comes to how long you live, and perhaps even more importantly, how well you live, you have more choice than you've probably ever imagined.
Most people think that with every passing year, they will experience less mobility and more pain. Most people think that heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and dementia are just inevitable consequences of getting older. But thankfully, you are not most people. And when you put what you're about to learn into action, and when you truly give your body the nourishment it needs to thrive, something very different and potentially very wonderful is possible.
I'm Ocean Robbins.
And I'm Nicole D'Andrea Russer.
Welcome to the Food Revolution Summit. I want to begin this summit on a very personal note. For 14 years, I've had the honor of hosting the Food Revolution Summit with my father, John Robbins, a man whose vibrant spirit, resilience, and deep love for humans, for animals, and for our planet transformed lives and helped to ignite the modern food revolution movement. Despite battling polio as a child and later facing post-polio syndrome, he defied the odds to become a marathon runner, a triathlete, and an inspiration to millions. My dad was my best friend and the most inspiring man I know. His unwavering commitment to wellness, his wisdom, and the kindness he shared remain a guiding light for me every day. Though I feel an immense ache at his loss, I am forever grateful for his legacy of love and help and for passing the torch to me, to Nicole, and to all of you. To anybody who is facing pain or fear or loss, please know we're here to support you and to help you change what you can, and also to help you bring serenity to what you cannot.
John's legacy is a reminder that every mindful choice has the power to transform our lives and our communities. His life taught us that true strength lies not just in surviving adversity, but in thriving and sharing that vibrancy with others. As we gather for this summit, we honor his memory by embracing the principles he lived by, nurturing our health, cherishing our connections, and striving for a world filled with compassion and sustainability. Let us carry forward his torch, making choices that enrich our lives and uplift our communities so that his spirit of resilience and love continues to guide us all. Sometimes, as you'll see in this summit, you can change a whole lot more than you may ever have imagined. In fact, it's possible to prevent and in some cases reverse most of the biggest killers of our times, including cardiovascular disease, stroke, cancer, Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes, and also debilitating conditions like chronic fatigue, IBS, IBD, arthritis, chronic inflammation, depression, anxiety, and many, many other ailments. And not only that, but when you give your body the right fuel, you don't just get sick less and die later, you can also live healthier and feel more vibrant and more alive.
And that really, I think, is the core point here. Not adding more time spent in a nursing home or in chronic suffering, but adding more vitality and more love and more joy to your life. So, what kind of a future do you want to look forward to?
When I envision the future, I think of a cognitively sharp mind, an agile body, some deep social connection, awakening with purpose and a plan today. And I think the key to aging is to recognize that that plan of aging has already started. So everything you're doing today, your choices are setting the stage for that future. So the idea of a slow path toward frailty and the fracture that kills you needs to just be completely reworked.
My vision for aging is that you can combine wisdom and life experience with vitality. We all have a time at which it's our time to leave this earth. But what I would love for everybody to experience is as much vitality in their bodies as they can before that time comes. And using simple health habits, we can do that. We're able to, on a cellular level, reverse or halt that aging process in a way that people sometimes have no clue about.
I think that we have aging all wrong, and we have this perception that as you get older, you should be getting worse. I actually think as you get older, you can get better, and you can learn more about yourself, learn more about your health, learn more about what the best things are for you to do for longevity.
The benefits of a healthy plant-based diet and a healthy diet and lifestyle where we take care of ourselves, where we don't smoke, where we abstain from or minimize alcohol, where we exercise regularly, where we maintain a healthy body weight. The benefits are huge. 10 to 14 extra healthy years on this earth. 10 to 14 extra years of health span. Who doesn't want that? 10 extra years of health in your lifespan. That could be the difference between seeing your grandchildren starting in, primary school or kindergarten and being there when they graduate university or write their first book or open their first startup company or have their first art exhibit. It's phenomenal. I want those 10 to 14 years, and they're available. They're available. Diet and lifestyle is so powerful.
No matter what choices you've made or how old you are, it's never too late to make a change and reap the benefits. In fact, a study published in PLOS Medicine found that moving from a typical diet to an optimal diet, even as late as the age of 60, could add 8 more healthy years of life. Even at the age of 80, you could add at least 3 more healthy years. And if you start sooner, say in your 20s or 30s, the benefits are even greater.
In the modern world, we're living longer than humans ever did before, and the primary causes of death and disease have changed quite a bit from what they used to be.
Humans certainly are living longer today than 100 years ago, right? I mean, about a century ago, life expectancies were down in the high 40s, low 50s. We're now in the high 70s to 80s on average globally. The other big change that we see is that, the primary drivers of premature mortality have changed significantly, right? Earlier, or 100 years ago, infectious diseases were the primary sources. Advances in medicine have eliminated that as a major source. And so what we're finding now when we look at the primary drivers of premature mortality is that diet is the leading cause. So if we want to continue expanding or growing on life expectancy, healthy diets and active lifestyles become a critical means of doing so. I'd emphasize here not just, absolute increases in longevity, which some evidence suggests we might be reaching, a peak around, 80s, 90s. But what we also find is that healthy diets and active lifestyles extend productive or enjoyable years, if you want.
So I would say the evidence is just compelling that the main killers in the U.S. and growing numbers across the world of all the chronic diseases, because we've really addressed a lot of infectious diseases. So mortality is mostly cardiovascular disease, including heart disease and stroke, and diabetes and cancer. And then obesity is sort of right on the heels of that and contributing to that. Those are all strongly diet related. So there's many, many papers out there saying, okay, you do have to die of something, but the issue is early mortality or just disability, not living a vital life, there is so much data suggesting that you will be vital and live longer if you eat well. It's a daily thing. We know the biochemistry, we know the epidemiology. It is there. How can you not want to make this choice?
Diet is crucially important. And if we look at the healthy habits that can potentially reduce all the causes of mortality, there's 4 simple healthy habits that can reduce early mortality by 80%. So this is really important stuff. A healthy plant predominant diet, not smoking, sensible use of alcohol or maybe no alcohol at all, and moving your body regularly. The most powerful of those 4 is what you put on your plate. And it's more powerful than all of the others combined. And when we think about the biggest causes of disease in the Western world, heart disease and lung disease and cancer and diabetes, 80% of those can be reduced by those simple 4 health habits.
Yeah.
So we need to crack on and have a good look at our plates and see what we can do to help ourselves.
We could prevent 12 million unnecessary human deaths every single year due to chronic diseases. We could keep hundreds of millions of people out of our hospitals every year and keep them at home with their families, at work, enjoying life and being productive.
I would say we only get one shot on this earth, right? This is it. We get one shot to make this journey, and we really want it to count and be our healthiest. We don't want to just live long. We want to live long and enjoy those years. We want those years to have purpose and meaning.
Life expectancy varies widely in different parts of the world, and more than 20 years ago, National Geographic explorer Dan Buettner set out to understand why. He decided to study, in particular, the places in the world where people traditionally live the longest and the healthiest lives. A few of these regions have come to be known as the Blue Zones.
The original blue zones were Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, Nicoya Peninsula, Costa Rica, Icaria, Greece, and Loma Linda, California. What Dan found was that in these regions, the number of centenarians, that is, people who live past the age of 100, was 4 to 10 times higher than what we generally find as average in the United States. And perhaps more significantly, people in these regions were found to live a lot more healthy years, free from chronic disease and disability, than most of us have come to expect.
Blue zones are at least a half dozen communities that Dan Buettner found, published in National Geographic, and now he has podcasts and websites about this. Pockets of areas where they found a higher than usual proportion of people who live beyond the age of 100. So it's, oh my God, look at all that longevity. What could it be about them? So lots of interviews and time spent with them. The only one in the U.S. is Loma Linda, which are the Seventh-day Adventists, but there's one in Greece, and they're scattered all over the planet.
When Dan Buettner and his research team went to these various communities in Greece and Italy, Costa Rica, they look for, what are these people doing? Is there any common threads that we can generalize and use more universally? And several things stand out. One thing every society does is that they have legumes in their diet. They're somewhere along the line. Their soups and their stews, etc., all have beans, peas, chickpeas, lentils, some type of legume in there. So beans seem to be a real staple around the world. Different kinds of beans, of course. But the other 2 things that really stand out when I read the Blue Zone research are, one, the physical activity that these people do. And so the constant physical activity does good things for their heart, for their bones, for their muscles. But finally, and the most assuring to me was the social support. As people get older, in our society, we discard them. We get them into the nursing home and forget about them. It's the opposite there. These people are treasured for who they are, for what they've contributed, for what they know. And many of them have grown up with close social bonds, friendships since childhood. And you see these people every day throughout your teen years and your 20s, and you go to their weddings, and then you go to their kids' births, and through their 40s and 50s and 60s, and finally you look around and, wow, you're all 90, and you still love each other and talk to each other on a daily basis. And you belong to your tribe, to a group who cares about you and that you can contribute to. You can teach the children. You can take care of the animals. You can do things for the community. People, we humans, we need to give. We're not takers, and the happiest of us. We know the joy that comes in giving. And even if you're over 100, you can still contribute a loving glance, a hug, a word of wisdom. And so as long as that keeps flowing, these people stay healthy, and lots of lessons there for us.
The Blue Zones concept has recently faced its share of critiques, especially from a British researcher named Saul Newman, who argues that errors in demographic records, poverty, and even fraud are more plausible explanations for what's believed to be these regions' extraordinary longevity. He also points to modern shifts in places like Okinawa, Japan, and Nicoya Peninsula, Costa Rica, where younger generations are adopting westernized diets and lifestyles as evidence against the idea of the Blue Zones being exceptional. These critiques deserve a thoughtful response, and many demographers, epidemiologists, geriatricians, and other scientists have provided one that I find pretty credible.
Yeah, the research behind Blue Zones appears to be pretty thorough and compelling. But the critiques miss the broader point of what makes the Blue Zones remarkable. It's true that Okinawa and Nicoya are not what they once were. But that doesn't debunk the Blue Zones concept, it reinforces it. The decline in longevity in these areas highlights how profoundly lifestyle choices shape health outcomes. The traditional diets and active lifestyles and strong social bonds and sense of purpose that defined these communities for generations are what made them Blue Zones, not some mystical or geographical quality. And as these habits erode, so do the benefits.
I think the takeaway isn't that we need to move to some faraway land. It's that any of us can create our own Blue Zone by adopting these time-tested habits. Some critics may nitpick the data, but the essence of the Blue Zones, the power of healthy food, movement, and meaningful connection remains as compelling as ever. Let's focus on what works and bring these lessons into our own lives.
Whether it's setting up walking school buses for kids, extending community garden spaces, creating no smoking areas throughout the town, or making sports activities easily accessible, Albert Lea has completely embraced the Blue Zones philosophy and completely changed its future.
Satisfaction levels with our town have risen almost 90%.
Healthcare costs for city workers is down 40%.
25% increase in property values across the board.
Biking and walking has increased by nearly 40% throughout our community.
Over 3 years of life have been added to the participants of this program.
I think it's also fascinating that the most thoroughly studied Blue Zone is in Loma Linda, California. The community of Seventh-day Adventists who make up most of the Loma Linda population consistently outlive other Americans by an average of 8 to 10 years. And this is remarkable as a case study because Loma Linda is right next to San Bernardino, a city that's grappling with staggering rates of chronic disease.
The first McDonald's that ever opened up in America was in San Bernardino. The people in San Bernardino, like the rest of the country, they eat the regular standard American diet. Lots of processed meats and lots of fat and oil. And with diabetes, heart disease, and dementia, the numbers are just astonishing and scary. But 5 miles away, right across Highway 10, you have Loma Linda. This population lives more than a decade longer and healthier than everyone else. I just want to repeat that, a decade longer. And you live a decade healthier. Why was that the case? That was an enigma to me. The environment is not much different. They get the same water, they get the same air. But in Loma Linda, most of the population has access to healthy foods, such as vegetables, beans, legumes, and fruits. And because a lot of them are Seventh-day Adventists, the majority of them are vegetarians. And even when they're not, they eat meat sparingly. Two areas, just 5 miles apart, and the biggest difference is food. That's profound.
So the Adventists in Loma Linda, California, for religious reasons, eat a plant-forward diet. So some of them are completely vegetarian, some of them are completely vegan, and some of them have small amounts of animal products, small amounts of meat, but less than the US average. Now, when we look at the blue zones and we look at their gut health, we see substantially lower rates of colon cancer. The Adventists who do consume meat are about 30% less likely than the US average to develop colon cancer. The Adventists who don't eat any meat at all are even less likely to develop colon cancer. So in many ways, it's the same outcome that we see when we look at rates of obesity and type 2 diabetes among the Adventists. They're all doing great, but as you take the animal products out of their blue zones diet, on average, they have lower rates of type 2 diabetes, lower rates of obesity, and lower rates of colon cancer.
Loma Linda and the other blue zones are regions where people tend to live longer and healthier than the rest of the world. In these communities, obesity, cancer, dementia, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, the major killers of our times, all tend to be less common. And when people in these regions adopt a more modern and industrialized dietary pattern, their health advantages seem to disappear. We see this same trend in less developed communities all around the world, where as people become more affluent, they tend to eat more meat and more processed foods. And along the way, waistlines expand, hospitals fill up, and chronic diseases that experts sometimes refer to as diseases of affluence become more common. But is it really true that rates of these diseases go up when people adopt a more Western-style diet? Or is it just that with affluence comes longevity, and with longevity comes the chronic diseases that never have a chance to develop if you die of an infectious disease or starvation in your 40s?
Back in the 1980s, Dr. T. Colin Campbell set out to explore all this in his groundbreaking research that came to be known as the China Study. This work is often referred to as one of the most comprehensive studies of nutrition ever conducted, and it challenged many long-held beliefs about diet and disease.
Dr. Campbell's research started in the lab and extended across rural China, spanning decades, during which dietary patterns and health outcomes were changing rapidly. And his team uncovered some striking patterns. Let's take a look.
America is suffering from diet-related illnesses. According to the American Cancer Society, men have a 47% risk of developing cancer in their lifetime. For women, it's a 38% lifetime risk. Colorectal, prostate, and breast cancer are among the most common. Dr. T. Colin Campbell, a nutritional biochemist who conducted groundbreaking research in the 1980s, may have the secret to preventing and even reversing some of these major health threats.
I had certain ideas that everyone else had, that the good old American diet is as good as it gets. Well, we got into science, I started doing things, fantastic things, very exciting opportunities over the years. I learned that what I thought was true in the beginning is not true.
Focusing on plant-based diets, he documented his research in the best-selling 2005 book, The China Study, co-written with his son and medical doctor, Thomas M. Campbell. The China Study reveals the dangers of consuming animal products and the benefits of plant-based nutrition. Dr. Campbell's team conducted lab research that connected nutrition to cancer. Their findings led them to the China Study, a study that spanned 10 years in rural China.
My dad was a project lead for the Cornell-Oxford China project, and this was a large nationwide survey across rural China, the first survey they did around 1980. And in rural China at that time, they had, people basically lived in the same communities that they were born in. There wasn't a lot of migration. It was still very traditional culture in rural China in the 1970s. And so they looked, for example, at disease rates across different counties in China. And they found that rates of Western disease like breast cancer, colon cancer, heart disease, those rates had wide variations across the country, much wider than you would see, for example, in the US, where people aren't, don't stay in one place with their families and lifestyles and so forth.
Right.
And so my dad and his collaborators and their team did a survey across these rural counties to look at a whole host of dietary factors, environmental factors, lifestyle factors, and basically assess what was different in each of these counties and how did it correlate to these very different rates of disease. And what they found was that, to make a very long story short, is that there are many markers of animal-based foods and markers of Western disease. And when you kind of correlated these things, you saw that more animal-based diet, more animal-based intake is correlated with more markers of Western disease. So that was a kind of a unique contribution. But when I think about the book, The China Study, and not just the scientific project, any one project, any one study doesn't prove anything, right? And there's major limitations to any one study. But what became so compelling for me personally, and I think when people read the book, is that it goes far beyond my dad's one project in China to look at his laboratory research and experimental research, and all the way incorporating other people's research across observational studies and intervention studies and so forth, Dean Ornish and Esselstyn and stuff. And all of these things, when you look at it in aggregate, becomes overwhelming. It's the aggregation. Yeah. You can poke holes in any one study, but it's the aggregation of these common findings. If you're looking at these things across diseases, across interventions, across study designs, across populations, across researchers, and you get these common outcomes, it becomes pretty hard to refute, that you're not onto something.
We looked at the data from Japan. You go back to the 1980s, the Westernization had not really taken over in Japan too much. It was still a rice-based diet. Mostly rice, some vegetables. Ice cream wasn't the thing, in Japan at that time. Dairy wasn't big. There was some meat, some fish, but not huge amounts. And it was predominantly rice-based. If you looked at that time, about 15% of women had hot flashes when they would go through menopause, but for most, no big deal. The hot flashes were mild. Then you see Westernization coming in, fast food chains cropping up, meat going up, dairy coming in a big way, which is kind of novel. Breast cancer rates doubled. Diabetes went up. Heart disease went up. Many cancers went up. Depression became more common. And hot flashes, which had been about 15%, were well over 40% by the early 2000s.
We're dying 8 years younger than Japanese people and 5 years younger than Canadian people, and we're dying younger. We're losing years of healthy life. Americans live fewer healthy years of life than Cubans or Jamaicans or Chinese, countries that spend a slight fraction of what we spend. And the real issue is, how do we live, not at what rate we die. But we die sooner and sicker than the people in the other countries.
Yeah.
And in order to achieve this awful comparative death rate or healthy life expectancy rate, however you want to look at it, in order to achieve that, we are spending in excess $2 trillion a year. That's $2,000 billion a year more than the other countries, wealthy countries, are spending on healthcare. So we're destroying our economy.
Big population data and epidemiological studies can be fascinating, but they can also be tricky because they often just observe patterns, which means they might mix up cause and effect or miss other factors that could explain the results. So what would happen if you tested different dietary patterns with people who had generally the same health history, the same financial resources, even the same upbringing? What if they also had the same genetics?
That's exactly what researchers set out to do in a fascinating 8-week study. They explored the cardiometabolic effects of a healthy plant-based diet compared to a healthy omnivorous diet, working with 22 sets of identical twins.
Everybody knows the average American diet is not very healthy. We sometimes call it the standard American diet, or SAD for SAD. That's why, as a nutrition scientist, I've tested many diets over the years looking for the healthiest ones. A major challenge in nutrition studies is that everyone is unique and individuals respond differently to the same food. So what if we got people who are genetically the same?
Identical twins often have the same mannerisms. They laugh in exactly the same way. The way they hold their coffee or teacups or drinking beer is extremely
Rawsonite.
specific to those twins. Identical twins are the perfect natural experiment because each individual has identical genes in every cell of its body. So they are the perfect way to tell nature from nurture.
So in the Stanford Twin Study, we took 22 pairs of identical twins. We randomized one twin to a vegan diet and one twin to a healthy omnivorous diet. We followed them for 8 weeks in total. For the first 4 weeks, we provided all the foods to them so that they would learn their new dietary pattern, what foods they should be consuming, what things they liked and didn't like. And then the subsequent 4 weeks, they provided and cooked all their own meals.
Very importantly, for the omnivores, which all of them were to begin with, none of them were vegan to begin with, we put a lot of emphasis on a healthy omnivorous diet so that the comparison group would not be some kind of straw man to knock over. So we measured a healthy eating index for both groups, and even the omnivores' quality of diet went up during the study. After 4 weeks of food delivery, they got 4 weeks of cooking on their own, which is more generalizable than food delivery. And we have blood, and we have poop, and we have surveys, questionnaires. And so we looked at lots of cardiometabolic risk factors. We looked at biological versus chronological age, and we looked at the microbiome, and the vegans won.
I think there could be a number of reasons for that benefit that we see. I think it comes down to the higher amounts of fiber that are in a plant-based vegan diet, but then also the micronutrients that are rich in abundance within our plant-based vegan diet.
The Stanford Twin Study provided compelling insights into cardiometabolic health, but it also revealed fascinating findings related to aging at a cellular level. Telomeres are protective caps at the end of our chromosomes. They naturally shorten as we age. Telomere length is a well-established marker of biological aging. In the twin study, researchers found a significant difference between the twins on vegan diets and their omnivorous counterparts.
The last results of the twins nutrition study are on the epigenome, or biological clock.
All right, so we're gonna switch gears a little bit away from metabolism and talk about aging. In addition to chronological age, how many years old is someone? We also use two different methods to estimate your biological age. The first one is the length of the telomeres, which are protective caps on the ends of strands of DNA.
Length of telomeres actually decreases as we age. If your telomeres stay longer, you're actually in better health and have a younger biological age relative to your chronological age.
The second marker we measured is called an epigenetic clock.
While your genome or DNA is fixed, your epigenome can be changed with things like nutrition and lifestyle. Epigenetics modifies how certain genes work and can tell us that your biological age is actually older or younger than your chronological age. A very new outcome for us that we had never done before was telomeres. These are the caps on our DNA that are protective of our chromosomes, and the longer they are, the more protective they are, and the shorter they become, the more we're aging. And it turned out the vegans did better on telomeres in just 8 weeks than the omnivores.
Typically when we do interventional studies, we try to say about 3 months to 6 months. With an 8-week study, we didn't really expect there to be much of a change. And so that's where it got really interesting.
At the beginning of the study, you and your twin had telomeres that were the same length. There was no statistical difference. By the end, in the omnivore group, there was no difference in the length of one person's telomeres from the beginning to the end of the study. But the vegan group had telomeres that were longer than the twin on the omnivore diet.
One of the most shocking findings of the study is that the twin that was eating the vegan diet is actually biologically younger than the twin that was on the omnivorous diet.
To see a significant reduction in biological age. Within 8 weeks, across all of the twins on a vegan diet. That was really interesting and surprising, to say the least.
We also had some epigenetic clocks. This is a whole new field of looking at your DNA, which you can't change, but you can influence how your DNA expresses the proteins that it makes by a term called methylation, where you add components to the DNA to sort of shut it down or amplify it. And if you look at the epigenetic clocks, the vegans got younger. And then we actually have some microbiome results that I can't talk about. I'm sworn to secrecy because it hasn't been published yet. But the vegans did better for their microbiome in a very surprising way. So we actually had in just 8 weeks a number of very notable, statistically significant benefits for the vegans over the omnivores.
Oh my God, I feel so set up. It's like, oh yeah, you omnivores, go on ahead, you know? And we're like, oh yeah, then our telomeres are getting shorter.
These epigenetic clock data suggest that eating a vegan diet can slow or even reverse cellular aging.
It's very impressive that this shift in diet had this dramatic effect in such a short time frame. It's a real biological finding which could then explain why plant-based diets generally lead to longer life.
The study was only 8 weeks long, but we already saw some significant advantage. So that really leads to implications of what if you followed this diet for an entire year, or 10 years, or an entire lifetime? What advantage will we kind of see?
The findings from the Stanford Twin Study and the connection between telomere length and diet give us a fascinating perspective on how nutrition can influence the aging process. But as we consider aging more broadly, it's clear that our nutritional needs don't remain static throughout life. Just as our bodies change with time, so too do the specific nutrients and lifestyle choices that support optimal health, especially after age 65.
That's such an important point, Ocean. As we age, our bodies naturally undergo shifts that affect how we process and utilize nutrients. Muscle mass tends to decline, bone density can decrease, and the ability to absorb certain vitamins like B12 becomes less efficient. These changes mean that adjusting our nutrient intake and overall diet are essential for maintaining vitality and preventing common age-related conditions.
Exactly. For instance, protein becomes more important for older adults to help preserve muscle mass and strength, which are critical for mobility and independence. Calcium and vitamin D and vitamin K play a vital role in maintaining bone health, which reduces the risk of fractures and osteoporosis.
What's encouraging is that with thoughtful adjustments, we can optimize nutrient intake to not only address these challenges, but to also enhance quality of life. It's about tailoring our diet and lifestyle to meet the unique needs at this stage of life.
Let's take a closer look at some of these key nutrients and at how your needs for them might change over time.
I believe that our nutritional needs age as we grow older, and part of that is due to the physiologic changes that occur with age. There's a slight decrease in our basal metabolic rate, our digestion may be altered, there may be changes in bone and muscle mass. I like to, advise individuals mainly over 65, but if you're navigating a chronic disease, this may apply to you if you're 50. And you can focus on several key nutrients to help maintain your health and your vitality. Protein's the first one. You want to prevent sarcopenia. And so older adults may require higher protein intake, around 1.3 grams per kilo per day. That's 0.6 grams per pound per day for those in the United States. And this, 30 grams per meal. And just to give you a frame of reference, I'm 120 pounds. That's about 72 grams of protein a day. Very easy to meet that by having 20 to 30 grams per meal. So the first thing that we need to make sure that we focus on as older adults is our protein.
Ocean, I've heard that you sometimes kick off your mornings with a protein-packed smoothie. Can you share with us what's in it?
Of course. It's pretty simple. I start with 2 cups of unsweetened organic soy milk. My favorite brand is Eden Soy, which delivers 12 grams of protein per cup, and it's nothing but organic soybeans and water. And I scoop in 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, which delivers another 8 grams of protein, 2 tablespoons of hemp hearts, which adds another 9 grams, and I add in frozen and chopped up banana and a half cup of frozen mango or cherries or other fruit. Put in a half teaspoon to a teaspoon of vanilla extract. If I'm feeling fancy, I might add some cocoa powder or a few spices, and I blend it up and yum. The smoothie is giving me about 41 grams of protein. And with a start like that, I'm gonna find it easy to meet my protein needs in the rest of the day. Plus I'm getting antioxidants and fiber and isoflavones from the soy, and it tastes pretty darn good. And I find that it keeps me energized and satisfied.
That sounds incredibly delicious. And I love how you make it so easy to pack in protein and overall nutrition. And it's all from real food. I'm with you on the unsweetened soy milk, by the way. It's my favorite go-to plant-based milk because I just love its flavor, creaminess, and the fact that it has a lot of protein.
Exactly. And there are so many ways to get protein from plants, whether it's beans or peas or lentils, nuts, seeds, tofu, tempeh, edamame, and don't forget about whole grains. They're a good source of protein too that a lot of people overlook. We'll dive deeper into protein in episode 7. But now let's look at a few of the other nutrients that especially older folks need to pay a bit more attention to.
With aging, it's important for us to understand, make sure that we're getting enough vitamin D. So that's a good annual blood test to have done with your healthcare practitioner to make sure your vitamin D level is close to 50.
You may need to take vitamin D as a supplement, mainly because most of us aren't outside and exposed to the sun enough anymore to actually have that hormone produced in our skin. So knowing your numbers is important. I always like to make sure that older adults are aware that they may need to take vitamin B12. And this is regardless of whether they're plant-based or not. And that's partly because the absorption of vitamin B12 decreases with age. This is another measure that you can get from your lab test just to see where you are. But if you're insufficient in vitamin D, that can lead to anemia and neurological issues. And then the last 2 things I want older adults to think about are your omega-3 fatty acids and your fiber. Fiber should probably be a macronutrient that we talk about more. Omega-3 fatty acids are good for heart health, the brain health, and you get them from things that you can sprinkle on your salad or put in your smoothies like flax seeds, chia seeds. For those of us that are plant-based, we can get these as a supplement from algae-based supplements, and they provide EPA and DHA. High fiber foods are very important, and I can't stress enough that we need to meet that 25 to 30 grams per day in order to aid our digestion, feed our microbiome, reduce constipation. And so having whole grains, fruits, vegetables, these should be included in your diet regularly.
So protein, vitamin B12, vitamin D3, omega-3 fatty acids, and fiber are all critical longevity boosting nutrients. There are also a couple beverages, coffee and tea in particular, that are remarkably beneficial. These beverages are popular, and it turns out that might be a very good thing.
You're right, Ocean. For most people, that is completely true. A study published in Frontiers in Nutrition analyzed data from over 8,000 US adults and found that regular coffee drinkers had 11% to 13% higher muscle mass compared to non-coffee drinkers. The benefit was most pronounced in people with a body mass index under 30.
That's fascinating. And it's not the only such study, by the way. Another one from the National University of Singapore tracked over 12,000 participants between ages 45 and 74. The researchers observed that people who consumed higher amounts of coffee and tea at midlife had a reduced likelihood of physical frailty in later years. Those who consumed 4 cups of coffee per day experienced the most significant benefits, but consistent drinkers of black and green tea also saw real advantages.
So why are these beverages, coffee and tea, so helpful to maintaining strength? Well, we know that they're both rich in caffeine and bioactive polyphenols. Caffeine has been shown to stimulate muscle cell proliferation and enhance muscle mass, and polyphenols have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties that may reduce the risk of conditions that contribute to frailty. And both caffeine and polyphenols have been linked to reduce risk of diseases that exacerbate frailty, including diabetes, cardiovascular issues, obesity, and neurodegenerative disorders.
Yes. And it turns out that both coffee and tea have other benefits too.
Coffee has been extensively studied, and interestingly enough, coffee is one of the main sources of antioxidants in the American diet, which just kind of shows, one, that Americans are not eating that many fruits and vegetables if they're getting their antioxidants from coffee, which is, bean water. But coffee has actually been studied, and there is a meta-analysis on coffee. Those that drink more than 3 servings of coffee a day have reduced liver disease, reduced depression, actually, and better cardiovascular disease. Now, those could be from some confounding factors. There are other studies that show it kind of depends on how you metabolize coffee and caffeine. But in general, the studies are pointing towards, if you like coffee, it actually is good for your health. If you're having one of those Starbucks drinks that are full with a lot of dairy and whipped cream, that's actually been shown to negate the positive effects of coffee and tea as well. So you really want to be looking towards just drinking coffee. And if you're going to add something to it, maybe some of the non-dairy items. Green tea and black tea have been shown to have acute benefits to cardiovascular disease. Even just 2 hours after you've had green tea or black tea, it's going to improve cardiovascular health. So, and even in kind of these population studies, you see that individuals or populations that drink more tea actually are living longer. Green tea, black tea, it's going to be good for your health. Herbal teas have actually been shown to improve blood pressure. So if you're a tea drinker, it's doing some good stuff for your health. Again, though, watch what you're putting in that tea. Individuals that add dairy, we see that those cardiovascular improvements are actually negated when you drink green tea with milk.
Stephanie makes a really important point about not negating the wonderful benefits of coffee or tea by drowning them in a sea of creamers or sweeteners. And there are a couple of other caveats to keep in mind as well.
Yes. A lot of people don't realize that most of the tea bags on the market are made with plastic or contain plastic linings that can release microplastics and harmful chemicals, particularly when soaked in hot water, which is something tea bags tend to experience. Studies have shown that steeping tea in plastic tea bags can release billions of microplastic and nanoplastic particles directly into your drink. These particles not only contaminate your tea, but they also could pose long-term health risks as they accumulate in the body.
And it's not just about what ends up in your cup. Tea bags containing plastic can't be composted even when they're marketed as biodegradable. Adding them to compost can introduce plastic particles into the soil, which is harmful to the environment. And if you have a garden where you use compost, these microplastic particles can wind up in your beloved vegetable garden.
Fortunately, there are better alternatives. There are a few brands that make plastic-free tea bags, including Puka, Republic of Tea, and Numi Tea. You can also use a stainless steel tea strainer or loose leaf tea in a reusable infuser, which is not only safer for your health, but also more sustainable for the planet.
Yes, that can be a wonderful step to take. And one more important thing to note about coffee and tea is that while they're associated with a bunch of wonderful health benefits for most people, they're not everyone's cup of tea.
So to speak.
Yes, exactly. Not everyone metabolizes caffeine well. So if you don't, you may find that it keeps you up at night or makes you feel really jittery for many hours. And if that's the case, you may want to steer clear of caffeinated beverages. The good news is that decaffeinated or caffeine-free teas and coffees still deliver massive health benefits, including polyphenols and other antioxidants.
And of course, nobody should be drinking caffeine in the evening or even the late afternoon if they want a good night's sleep. This is significant because we live in a highly stressed out society, and we keep learning more about the critical importance of sleep, rest, and dialing down stress.
Stress management is very important, and I shun, when people say get rid of stress, First of all, let me start by saying that not all stress is bad stress. I like to talk about differentiating between eustress, that's EUSTRESS, and distress, which is more of a less positive type of stress. So eustress is the type of stress that comes from, things like a wedding or a celebration or getting ready for the holidays, when you may be stressed in the short term, but it's for good reasons. Stress only becomes negative when it becomes chronic stress. And that's when you are activating your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis for extended periods of time and have high levels of cortisol that are being released and that are stimulating different types of cells in your body. Managing stress, and stress is one of those triggers that can over time result in systemic chronic inflammation that can also result in chronic disease. So it's important to identify ways for you to manage stress. And there can be many different ways. I recommend that people look at things that you can do very simply and easy, whether it's meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, things that you can incorporate into your life, even in 5-minute intervals, to help lower that stress level, lower kind of the anxiety and tension that you may be experiencing. And you can also do it even sitting at your desk. So doing box breathing, doing some mindfulness using an app, those are all things that you can incorporate very easily to reduce stress. I think sleep is also important to reducing stress. So adequate sleep is important. And then a stress reliever that we often don't think about is movement. You may notice getting up from your desk, if you've been at your desk for a long time, going for a walk and including other people. So getting that social connection, that can also be a great way to reduce your stress. But it's very important for you to understand, one, what is the root cause of your stress? Because yes, we can find ways to manage stress, but my recommendation would be to find ways to mitigate it. And that's looking for those sources and trying to find a way to better manage those sources of stress.
I always say to people that stress is the wild card. You can have a very healthy diet, you can exercise, but if you have stress in your life, whether it's emotional, relational, financial, even not getting enough sleep is a stressor on the body. And it all works the same way. It activates our stress system. And when that system is activated, we release cortisol, which drives inflammation and changes the gut microbiome, and the body becomes inflamed and dysfunctional. So it's really important to identify the root cause first when we're looking to reduce stress in our lives, to find out where the stress is coming from and do the best you can to mitigate that source of the stress. So learning to say no is a very important part of stress management, especially in this day and age. And part of learning to say no is really looking at the things that we're doing and putting them in the context of our life and lifespan. What's really adding value to my life and the value to others' lives? And I'm going to invest in those things, like the core foundational stones in our life. And all of these other peripheral things, sometimes we have to push them out because they will definitely, it's the tyranny of the urgent. They will overtake our lives. So understanding time management is really essential. And then finally, simple things like deep breathing can lower your cortisol levels 25 to 35% in just 1 or 2 minutes. And so whether you're in the shower, you're at a stoplight, you're on a break, taking some time to close your eyes, connect with your heart, and breathe in and release. And instantly, in 2 breaths, the stress leaves your body, cortisol levels go down. So I always like to give people simple things that they can do, that they can work into their lives, that help to kind of pull back just enough of the chaos that they can find their way through towards a more stress-free life.
One very simple stress reduction technique is box breathing. So taking deep breaths. So the vagus nerve is really important for autoimmune disease and lowering inflammation and helping the immune system. So one way to stimulate the vagus nerve is by doing deep breathing. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and then breathe out for 4 seconds. It's sort of like a box. So there's many variations of it. Some people do 4, 7, 8 seconds, or you can do 4, 4, 4 seconds. So that's one way to lower your stress level. So you're in the moment, you're just focusing on your breath.
One of the things I love about breathing is that we bring it with us everywhere we go. You don't need any special tools or environment in order to breathe. And when you choose to breathe deeply and intentionally, it can send messages of peace and calm throughout your whole body. It can help you to dial down stress in a simple, basic, yet remarkably effective way.
Absolutely. And reducing stress is key. In fact, the 4 core pillars of lifestyle medicine and of longevity are to eat better, stress less, move more, and love more.
So let's look now at moving more. And it's important to recognize that being physically active looks different for everyone. Physical abilities vary widely, especially as we age or face health challenges.
That's so true, Ocean. What matters most is finding ways to move your body that hopefully can feel accessible and enjoyable. Whether it's walking, gentle yoga, chair exercises, lifting weights, swimming, biking, or even simple stretches, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to being active.
And the benefits go beyond just physical health. Regular movement can boost mood, improve energy, and even reduce the risk of chronic disease. Let's explore how incorporating movement into your routine at any level can support vitality and longevity.
Exercise is one thing that affects pretty much every disease and everything. And the best kind of exercise is the one you like, because if you like it, you'll do it. It really kind of comes down to that. Now, there's aerobic and there's strength training, and the optimal is to do both. That's what we ask our patients to do, because one builds up muscle mass, and especially as you get older, your muscle mass is, a lot of health benefits, but beyond just being stronger. And the aerobic just gives you more conditioning. But a little goes a long way. People think, gosh, if I don't have time to exercise for an hour or run 5 miles 3 times a week, I'll just roll over in bed. But the latest studies are showing how little exercise can make a big difference, especially if you do it intensively. Just a few minutes, 5 minutes of intense exercise can give you really remarkable health benefits.
So you definitely want to be busting a move. And when I talk about exercise and movement, people are like, I see the benefits. I talk about how you increase insulin sensitivity, you can enhance fat metabolism, you lower estrogen levels, which matter in breast cancer risk. And ultimately, you decrease inflammation, which allows your immune system to do its healthy cell scavenging things in you. They say, what is the minimum amount of exercise that I have to do to achieve all these benefits? And here are the answers. When you look at the exercise dose response curve, it's really interesting. So it starts off pretty steep, meaning just a little bit of exercise gives you some serious, excellent health benefits. And that will go, so time is moving out. The more you exercise, that curve is just getting you healthier until, boop, you start to curve at 300 minutes a week, 5 hours a week. More is still better. The curve still goes up ad infinitum. So exercise your heart to your heart's content.
Well, I think a good formula is some aerobic and some anaerobic. I mean, even if you're not training for anything specific and you're not trying to break any records and you're 50 or 60 or 70, we have to work our heart. And so, yes, aerobic exercise, just, being outside, hiking, walking, biking, whatever it might be. But I have learned that doing something anaerobic at least 1 day or 2 days a week as we age is critically important to keep that ticker really strong.
Sometimes we get caught up on using exercise for helping us to count calories and helping us to lose weight. I'd really rather my patients focused on their well-being. I would say focusing on either more of a high intensity interval training is quite good for cardiovascular fitness. Focusing on doing resistance training is particularly helpful for maintaining muscle mass.
You have to stretch a lot more than you did when you were younger because we get tighter and tighter. And that's also another way to mitigate injury is to stay flexible.
There's great research on other forms of exercise too. Yoga, for example, is being beneficial for people suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Even movements such as Tai Chi, you may see people doing that in the park in certain places. It's a really wonderful way of moving your body more intentionally, engaging the parasympathetic nervous system through movement, which is wonderful. And also studies have shown that it can improve and reduce the risk of frailty as we get older as well. So any form of movement is a good form of movement.
For someone that's in a lot of pain, exercise is still really important. But exercise can mean many different things. It doesn't have to be running a marathon or lifting weights. It could be simple as yoga or stretching. I see patients that sometimes can't even get out of a chair, can't get out of bed because they're so inflamed. There's so much pain going on. So for those patients, I tell them just try to stretch in your bed, or just do maybe some Tai Chi or Qigong, something that you can do that's not too rigorous, or even do chair yoga, for example. Just do it to a point where you're not getting too much pain. So you want to keep moving because exercise is anti-inflammatory. Even aquatic therapy can be very useful if it can get in the pool.
We all need to do the best we can with what we've got. Sometimes that means climbing mountains. Sometimes that means taking deep breaths. And sometimes it means letting our loved ones know how much they mean to us and how much we care about them. We never know how long we or they have on this earth. Mortality can remind us how precious each moment with our loved ones really is. And that brings us to the fourth pillar of healthy longevity, which is to love more.
Modern health research is showing us that meaningful relationships and a sense of belonging aren't just nice to have. They are essential for our well-being. We're finding that strong social connections can reduce stress, improve mental health, and even boost immune function. In fact, people with close relationships tend to live longer and have lower risk of chronic diseases like heart disease and dementia.
And it's not just about the quantity of relationships, but the quality. I'm sure we've all got people in our lives that we don't really want to spend a whole lot of time with. But feeling loved and supported and understood and connected has profound effects on mental and physical health. So let's take a deeper look at the healing power of love.
Study after study have shown that people who are lonely and depressed, which I think is the real pandemic, are 3 to 10 times more likely to get sick and die prematurely from pretty much all causes when compared to those who have a sense of love and connection and community, in part because it affects our behaviors and in part in more direct ways. And so there's been a radical shift in our culture in the past 50 years with the breakdown of the social networks that used to give people a sense of love and connection and community.
So community, social connection, love, laughter, they are all so important for longevity and also for good mental health. And this isn't the likes that you see on Facebook or Instagram. This is human contact, human connection, where you are having conversations, where you are going for walks, where you are going to the gym, where you are having a meal. Social connection, love, and laughter, and also reducing social isolation are very important to health and longevity.
And we all know that when we have a conversation with a friend or get a hug, right, you just feel better, right?
Yeah.
Your heart stress levels go down, everything gets better. So having more love in your life, is it good for your heart? Absolutely. Having less stress in your life, is that good for your heart? Absolutely. You know, there's data to show that if you have those connections, your cortisol level goes down, your blood pressure goes down. So if you foster connection and love and community, you will improve your heart health. I mean, it's so cool. Like, it's so cool that you can connect love and heart health.
Restoring the sense of belonging, understanding who you are, where you come from, the relationship that you have with your ancestors, but also with future generations. We have relationships and obligations to leave the world a better place. I think learning how to think like that, where you're thinking about the impact of your life and the choices you make, not just on yourself, but you're thinking about that impact on your family, your community, your ancestors, and even those who have yet to be born, really is a change in thinking that Indigenous people have always understood.
Another piece of the longevity puzzle is menopause. It marks a significant transition for women, bringing changes that can affect energy, mood, and overall health. Hormonal changes during menopause, particularly shifts in estrogen and progesterone, can impact bone density, cardiovascular health, and even cognitive function. These changes are natural and vary from woman to woman. But the good news is that the way each woman responds to her body's changes can make a big difference for her.
Yes. And some of the same principles that are helpful in navigating menopause are also helpful for men in navigating andropause, which is a term for the hormonal changes that occur in men when their testosterone levels decrease with age. So let's explore how hormonal balance and lifestyle choices can empower us to thrive through these transformative stages of life.
Menopause is a natural life transition, but it doesn't come without challenges for a lot of women. And what happens around menopause is that your ovaries are naturally beginning to dial down their production of estrogen. And as a result, all of the cells in our bodies that respond to estrogen will have quite a different experience compared to when they were bathed in estrogen prior to that experience. So you may notice multiple effects in the body potentially. From the head to the toes. The most common symptom a lot of people describe around perimenopause, that time around menopause, is difficulties with things like brain fog, ability to concentrate, struggling to sleep, hot flashes, bone and body aches. About 30% of perimenopausal women will talk about how their body begins to ache, and other things that you might not even think about. Dry eyes, for example, sometimes sexual dysfunction, not being able to have the same pleasure from having sex with your partner, for example, joint issues sometimes as well, and weight gain, because your body is an amazing thermostat. Your body is wanting to increase the estrogen that your ovaries are no longer producing, and so it's more natural then to experience a bit more fat deposition around the center of the body, which then gives people a more of a propensity towards gradual weight gain over time. And so when we are aware of some of the changes that we are likely to experience, I think self-compassion is really important, not to be too hard on yourself, to know that a lot of these changes are part of those hormonal shifts, but that there is also plenty that can be done that can help you through it. And of course, diet can play a huge role in that. Eating whole foods, eating plant foods is fantastic. Increasing the fiber content of our foods is amazing. It allows us to be able to regulate our hormones in a much more efficient way. I love the soybean in all its forms and varieties, and it's really specifically very helpful in some studies for symptoms of things like hot flushes. Also great in terms of not only menopausal health, but hormonal health in general. For people who are experiencing heavy or painful periods, for example, or fibroids and endometriosis, it can be quite helpful to have these soybean foods, because they provide isoflavones, which are really very helpful. If you have a microbiome that's able to digest these isoflavones, it provides you with phytoestrogens, which allow you to have a lot of relief from these symptoms.
There is something protective about a plant-based diet, that it keeps hormones more in check. And there's something about soybeans, that soybeans have what we call isoflavones, that have sort of a healthy medicinal effect. They're associated with reduced risk of breast cancer. Maybe they're fighting hot flashes too. So anyway, we had the opportunity to test this. And we brought in 84 women. We found that 3 things: vegan diet, keeping fat really low, and having a half a cup of soybeans, just plain old soybeans, cooked up in your pressure cooker. Those 3 steps would reduce the moderate to severe hot flashes by 88%. So it was as strong as hormone replacement. It was like a drug. Plus, women lost weight. They felt great. For some, the change was within days. For most, it took a little bit longer, a few weeks. But it was a huge effect.
So a vegan diet that included a half a cup of soybeans per day reduced moderate to severe hot flashes by 88%. That is pretty extraordinary.
It really is. There are many ways that a whole foods plant-based diet really does seem to be optimal for healthy aging. But bone strength is a bit more complicated.
Yes. Interestingly, the Adventist Health Study 2 revealed that plant-based eaters tend to be healthier across nearly every measure, from lower rates of chronic disease to longer life expectancy. However, one surprising exception was the rate of hip fractures, which were actually higher among the plant-based eaters, especially so for vegans.
Now that raises an important question. Why? It could be that the vegans in the study ate diets that were too low in calcium. It could be that their body mass indexes were lower, which is usually a good thing, but in the case of bone density might not be. You see, less weight equals less weight-bearing exercise, and weight-bearing exercise is one of the things that create strong bones. Working out with more weight makes your muscles stronger, and carrying more weight actually seems to make your bones stronger.
The good news is that there are some key steps we can all take, whether we're plant-based or not, to support bone health without needing to depend on dairy products. So let's explore how to optimize diet and lifestyle to build and maintain strong, resilient bones at every stage of life.
Yes, so there were some research studies that were published, I believe, in 2023 that indicated that vegans may be at a slightly higher risk of some changes in bone health as they age. I would say that maintaining strong bones is crucial regardless of whether you're plant-based or not. And my recommendations for all of our plant-based community is one, to start early, meaning that the foundations of your bone health start in your 20s, not in your 50s or 60s. So it's vital to pay attention to the factors that can impact your bone strength. These include your nutrition, being active, your hormonal balance, your lifestyle, and then avoiding smoking and excessive alcohol consumption. And I'll tell you, even though some people may have seen me recently, I regularly recommend that you understand the status of your bone health. And the best way to do that is through getting a DEXA scan.
Having a low BMI is very healthy for a number of reasons, but you want to make sure that, especially for people who've had a history of not having periods for more than 6 months during their reproductive lifespan, or people that have been underweight, living with a low BMI, people who've experienced health conditions where they've had to take steroids, for example, for long periods of time, they're going to all be more prone to osteoporosis. And so if that's you, it's really important to think about, okay, well, what can I do to maximize my bone strength? And for me, one of the number one tips I can give is really prioritizing resistance training. And that's hard, I think, especially for women, because they think, oh, I don't want to bulk up. I don't want to be, I don't maybe feel comfortable in a gym environment, for example, but it doesn't have to be that. You could get a can of beans, you could get a water bottle, and you just basically start to lift these items and try and do resistance training with your own body. Maybe see if you can progress to simple exercises like a plank, which could be tremendously difficult to start with. But if you keep practicing and using your own body weight as a resistance tool, you can start to do that without any equipment at all. And it can be really helpful to stimulate your osteoblasts and to improve your bone strength.
So imagine our skeleton it gets stronger as it supports our weight. And when we exercise, it supports our weight. So we talk about weight-bearing exercise like walking, hiking, jogging. Our skeleton supports its body weight, so that strengthens our bones. Things that are not weight-bearing are biking, swimming. While they're great exercises for other reasons, if you're looking to strengthen your bones, they're not going to do the trick. And then, of course, strength training like lifting weights, Pilates, or calisthenics can also be extremely valuable.
Diet's very important for bone health because bone health also has an immune system that plays a role in it. So if patients are eating a pro-inflammatory diet or a standard American diet, that can contribute to more osteoporosis potentially in the future, or bone thinning, because there are immune system molecules that go in and out that are active. So it can be pro-inflammatory or anti-inflammatory. And if you are in a pro-inflammatory state, it can resorb your bone and eat away the bone, causing bone thinning over time. So some of the pro-inflammatory foods that can contribute to worsening bone health include sugar, especially refined sugar, all the candy, sodas, that's very pro-inflammatory. Another one is processed meats. That can be very inflammatory as well. The hot dogs, the bolognas, the ham, that is also carcinogenic based on some of the data out there. And also a lot of the white flour, the pastries that has sugar and white flour as well, can be highly inflammatory. And a lot of people, they like to eat chips and those type of foods that are high salt, ultra processed food, that can be very detrimental for bone health in the long run. I don't think there's any one food that's like extra special for bone health in a plant-based diet. I think eating all the colors of the rainbow, make sure you get all types of phytonutrients, and fiber is so important, but also getting your protein in as well. So you can get that from beans, tofu, and a lot of plant-based sources.
And of course, for people who are eating a plant-based diet, what's going to be particularly helpful is focusing on improving and maximizing your sources of dietary calcium, and also vitamin D is going to be great for bone strength, as well as magnesium. Thankfully, with a plant-based diet, there's plenty of abundant sources of magnesium. And with careful planning as well, there's loads of great ways you can get lots of calcium.
Bone health is complicated, and there have been some observational studies where, for example, vegans have a slightly higher rate of hip fractures. And there are others that don't show that, but there are some that do. And in some of that research, the issue is that the calcium intake is quite low. If you're eating a restrictive diet with very little calcium intake, your bones are going to suffer. And in one study, for example, if they took out the people with very low calcium intake, vegans didn't have an increased risk of hip fractures, only if they really had a very low calcium intake. So, diets do have to be planned a little bit. It doesn't need to be that complicated, but you can't have a processed food vegan diet and have good health. You really have to focus on whole foods, and depending on your context, there are certain situations where you may need to supplement.
For plant-based eaters in particular, here's what you have to do. You need to make sure that you are getting adequate intake of the key nutrients. That's your calcium, your vitamin D, your magnesium, and your potassium. And you can do this very easily with a whole food plant-based diet. You don't need to do anything special. With vitamin D, you may want to make sure by talking with your healthcare team that your vitamin D levels are adequate. And so that may require vitamin D supplementation, and that's okay. And in addition, vitamins K1 and K2 that are found in leafy greens and fermented foods, they can play important roles in helping absorb the calcium in the vitamin D and play a positive role in bone metabolism.
For postmenopausal women and for men over 70, it's probably ideal to be getting about 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day. One of the top plant-based sources is tofu that is coagulated with calcium. Just a half a cup of tofu can deliver over 400 milligrams of calcium. And there are more great sources. A cup of black-eyed peas delivers 370 milligrams of calcium. 2 ounces of sesame seeds gives you 560 milligrams. A big bowl of steamed kale can give you 300 milligrams, and 2 tablespoons of blackstrap molasses gives you over 300 milligrams of calcium. Of course, all of this adds up, so getting 1,000 or 1,200 milligrams of calcium in a day can be very doable. If you're getting enough calcium from food, then you likely do not need a calcium supplement.
It's true. Getting enough calcium from food is ideal, and most of us don't need a calcium supplement to meet our calcium needs. But if you're concerned about bone health, and especially if you're a postmenopausal woman, then it could be wise to take a small amount of supplemental calcium a couple times a day. And this is especially true for vegans. The Adventist Health Study 2 found that vegans had higher rates of hip fractures than omnivores or dairy-eating vegetarians did. But, and this is important, when they took small amounts of calcium supplements and also took vitamin D3 regularly, that disadvantage evaporated.
Yes, and it's worth noting that calcium supplementation is controversial. Some studies have linked excessive calcium supplementation to shorter life expectancy. It turns out that Too much calcium can end up in the arteries instead of the bones. And in the arteries, it can contribute to calcification and to cardiovascular disease risk. That's where vitamins D3 and K2 come in. It seems that they help your body absorb the calcium you consume and to direct it to the bones where it belongs.
Taking a thoughtful and balanced approach to bone health is important. This includes diet and, in some cases, supplements. It also has got to include exercise because, truthfully, weight-bearing exercise is far and away the #1 most important factor for bone health. Bones respond to healthy stress. It's a classic case of use it or lose it. And in this case, the lighter your body is, the more important it is for you to incorporate weight-bearing exercise in order to support strong bones.
Another area that often comes up as a point of concern with aging is vision loss. Conditions like glaucoma, cataracts, macular degeneration, and eyesight deterioration are often considered inevitable with aging. But are they inevitable? Research suggests they're not, and it turns out that specific foods can make a world of a difference for eye health. To learn more, let's turn to one of the world's foremost experts, the integrative ophthalmologist, Dr. Ronnie Bannock.
So the way most eye doctors are trained traditionally, whether they're ophthalmologists or optometrists, is to basically wait for a problem to appear and then to try to treat it. So it's almost like you're kind of chasing, chasing your tail with it. Let's say somebody has cataracts or glaucoma. Once they actually develop the problem, that's when we start addressing it and managing it. Rather than taking a root cause approach, which is basically what I've shifted my career into doing once I got certified in functional medicine, I try to find where the potential causes of the problem may be and address them before they cause vision loss. Whether it's cataract, which is an opacity of the lens in the eye where people can't see properly because there's almost like a dirty lens that they're seeing through, or it's glaucoma where the pressure can go high in the eye and damage the optic nerve, or macular degeneration. All three are due to the delicate tissues of the eyes over time undergoing oxidative stress and then developing damage and loss of function of the tissues. So when it comes to lifestyle and nutrition, there are so many things people can do to fight against that type of oxidative stress. I would love to highlight 3 nutrients that most of us probably don't hear so much about. They're what I consider like the eye vitamins, even though officially they're not vitamins, they're carotenoids, they're bioactive compounds. These are lutein, zeaxanthin, and mesozeaxanthin. I know they're kind of hard to pronounce, hard to remember, but don't worry about the names, but just know that there are 3 of them. They're called carotenoids. They're cousins to beta carotene. They're cousins to vitamin A. And the reason why they're so important for eye health is because the beauty of nature is that, of course, our bodies can't make these nutrients, so we need to get them externally. But when we get them through our food, our body absorbs these nutrients and selectively deposits them in the back of the eye. So it's amazing how our bodies have evolved in this way to take these nutrients from our food, deposit them into the retina, into the macula in the back of the eye, and then these nutrients serve as natural shields for oxidative stress. So it's almost as though we have internal sunglasses or internal blue blockers with these nutrients. They shield against the harmful effects of UV light and even blue light. So it's really, really, really important. I can't stress enough how important it is for people to get enough of these 3 nutrients, lutein, zeaxanthin, mesozeaxanthin. And they're also great for brain health. There's actually a lot of literature published to show that these 3 are very, very important for cognition and memory. And they're also great for skin health. So it's like a win-win. You're doing whatever you're doing for your eyes, you're also helping your brain, and your whole body will benefit, basically. And also the good news is there are many sources of these nutrients. So it's not just, if I only have this one food, will I be able to get these nutrients? That's not true. The good news is there are many, many foods that provide us with lutein and zeaxanthin, which is good.
So those eye health nutrients, lutein and zeaxanthin, that concentrate in the retina, are found most concentrated in dark green leafy vegetables. So that's one of the ways where we can preserve our vision as we get older is by eating lots of greens. But that's not the only way we can help. The good news is that the risk for macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, and glaucoma, cataracts, the 4 most common causes of vision loss, can all be reduced with dietary changes. So Lutein zeaxanthin from dark green leafy vegetables. These two yellow pigments protect the retina from light damage. Also found in yellow corn, goji berries, and avocados, but most concentrated in dark greens. And chopping and steaming greens, as well as eating them with a healthy source of fat, like nuts or seeds or nut butter, seed butters, can improve lutein bioavailability. Saffron is a spice that may improve age-related macular degeneration. The best way to prevent diabetic retinopathy is to not get diabetes in the first place or reverse your type 2 diabetes with a healthy enough diet. Greens may also help prevent glaucoma along with regular exercise. And black currants, ginkgo biloba, and nicotinamide may slow the accumulation of visual deficits in glaucoma. Cataract surgery is relatively safe and simple procedure for cataracts. And in terms of preventing cataracts, we can reduce our exposure to oxidative stresses like UV rays in sun, as well as consuming lots of lutein zeaxanthin-rich foods such as greens, vitamin C-rich foods such as broccoli, bell peppers, tropical fruits, citrus, all associated with the lower cataract risk, though antioxidant supplements don't appear to help. And there appears to be a stepwise drop in cataract risk as one's diet gets more and more plant-based.
We keep learning more about the power of diet and lifestyle to expand our capacity to live fully and to love the lives that we have. When it comes to eye health and bone health, to muscle strength and menopause, to disease prevention and vitality, we often really do hold our lives and our futures on our plates.
One of the things I've loved most about being in this food revolution movement for decades now is the opportunity to hear story after story of healing and transformation. Around the world, millions of people have experienced firsthand how changing their diets has enabled them to reverse disease and to feel better. These results are fairly predictable, but to me, that doesn't ever make them anything less than miraculous.
At FRN, we get to hear these stories just about every day, and they always fill me with joy and with gratitude. One example among so many is Lori Stoddart.
My health challenges developed over a period of about 10 years. I went from being healthy in my 50s, I'm now 63. I left a vegetarian diet and I basically evolved into gaining weight, eating a standard American diet, moved to Kentucky, which is where I'm from now, and I became pre-diabetic, hypertensive, overweight, had a BMI of, like 32%, and just was feeling miserable all around. And my cholesterol was high, about 300. I felt sluggish. I felt moderately depressed because I couldn't really move the way I had in my younger years. I knew that I had to change, make some serious changes in my life. And from my previous experience, I knew that maybe nutrition would be the way to go. What really caught me emotionally is I had a younger brother that died of diabetes. And as someone who had been diagnosed with pre-diabetes, I was afraid. I was like, oh my goodness, I know what that looks like. I had a father that passed with cardiac incident. So the fact that I was hypertensive also hit me. So I was afraid on two fronts, knowing how those disease processes go together, that I was going to head down that path. And I knew I needed to do some dramatic change in my life. So by going vegan, and it was a gradual transition, I found I was able to change everything. All my parameters have changed for the better, and I'm very happy about that. So biomarkers that have shifted, I've lost 30 pounds. I had to go out and buy an entire new wardrobe. Yay! I'm no longer hypertensive. My cholesterol went from really high to normal. My A1C went from pre-diabetic to still a little high, but way in the right direction. And I just found that everything changed so that physically I changed. And I found myself actually strangely, it was like reacquainting myself to the younger version of myself. I found that, wow, this is what young Laura felt like. You know, I've been a personal trainer. I'd been an athlete all my life. And so it was like all of a sudden, oh, I can now walk that 2-mile walk. Whereas before a half a mile was all I could do without getting winded. Having my health back means I'm happier in my body, I'm clearer in my mind, I'm emotionally more grounded, and I have tremendous hope for my future, personally and then interpersonally. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a grandma, all these people in my life that I love and cherish, I get to really look forward to being there with them, whereas before I was worried that I might not be.
Lori's story is amazing. But is it possible to be healthy even past the age of 100? Here's a little clip that I think you might enjoy about Mr. Mike Fremont.
Mike Fremont is a 100-year-old marathon runner who set the fastest time slot for a marathon ever finished by a 91-year-old. Fremont was diagnosed with colorectal cancer at 69. He was reportedly given 3 months to live and turned to a plant-based diet to help shrink cancer. Because for Mike, it's all about diet, specifically the whole food plant-based diet he adopted 30 years ago. According to Runner's World, he backed away from the tumor with his new diet plan before having surgery to remove what was left in 1994. The conclusion he came to long ago was the absolute satisfaction that people could go into their lifetimes and that they consist in helping other people, period. In whatever way, as much as you can. That brings real rewards. He's mentioned the importance of healthy relationships and the happiness and the joy they bring you. He said that staying engaged with life with other human beings, having a sense of purpose, like his connection to climate change issues and sustainability, as his love for running, canoeing, and exercise.
I've got so many patients that haven't felt quite right, weren't able to define what felt wrong, but just that their bodies didn't feel right. They felt sluggish, they felt tired, perhaps carrying some extra weight, just feeling a lack of vitality in their bodies. And when they've shifted to a more whole food plant-based diet, when they've taken those lifestyle steps that we've talked about today, then their whole perspective can change, their whole trajectory of life can shift, and their imagination can start to really kick in, and they can have a life that's completely different from the one that they could ever have imagined for themselves before. So for me, it can be the difference between living a life of intention and beauty and living a life where you just haven't been able to make those decisions for yourself.
Your body is truly a temple. Your body is really the only home that you have, that you will live in for your whole life. And so it should be seen as a privilege and an honor to care for it, so that you will be able to live and thrive and do everything that you were meant to do on this earth.
Some people ask if it's too late for them. After a lifetime of bad habits, does it really matter what you eat? And we say yes. It always matters. And in fact, the worse your habits have been, then in some ways the more you've got to gain from making a positive change. The human body has an extraordinary capacity to heal and to regenerate when you give your body the right fuel. And when you bring your choices into alignment with your well-being, it's incredible what a difference it can make. Whether you have another month or another decade or another 100 years on this planet, your every moment can be a bit brighter and a bit more beautiful when you love your body enough to nourish it well.
That's why we're here. That's why we do what we do, because the status quo is no longer acceptable, because people's lives are on the line, and because we can do better.
Yes. And we're just now nearing the end of episode 1. We have so much more to share and to learn together. In our next episode, we'll team up with another brilliant panel of experts as we focus on boosting brain health. We'll look at how you can prevent Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia, and how you can effectively fight depression, anxiety, and other mental health challenges. And we'll look at how the right diet and lifestyle choices can help you enjoy a clearer mind and a healthier, happier life. We'll see you there. Let's do this. Thank you so much for joining in the broadcast of episode 1 of the Food Revolution Summit docuseries. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing, to find out what other people are saying, post and engage in the comment section on our broadcast page. Make sure you refresh the comments using the button provided there so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. Maramar said, I love this conversation. It is so informative and important. Thank you, Food Revolution Summit. Thank you, Maramar, for being a part of it with us. Dana said, watching from Sacramento, California for the second go-through. Since the original airing and going mostly vegan, I no longer have asthma issues or acid reflux. I know my gut is much happier now and want to reinforce it. How wonderful, Dana. We are so glad you are here for the second go-through, that you can share with us the changes you've already experienced with your asthma and your acid reflux in these past few months. And I hope that this go-through of the summit will empower you to go even further on your path. Wonderful that your gut's feeling happier. You're going to learn more about gut health in episode 3 coming up day after tomorrow. Welcome back. Welcome forward. Renee said, I appreciate the summit so much. It was over 5 years ago when I first watched the Food Revolution Summit. You and your dad opened my eyes to a world I didn't even know existed. I never realized that food could be medicine and that we didn't have to get sick and be on so many medications as we age. My family became whole food plant-based right after the summit, and it changed our life so much. We saw amazing health benefits and even dramatic chronic disease remission that we didn't even realize was possible. Even our son thrived and was so much healthier than I could ever imagine. I felt so much healthier that I became a health and wellness coach so that I too could empower others to take back control of their health and feel amazing the way you and your dad helped me. Thank you again so much. I will always be grateful to you and your father. Renee, thank you. What a beautiful story. I am so happy to hear about all these transformational benefits for you, for your family, and now for all the people you are touching as a health coach. And this is often the journey, folks, that as we have our health, we're better able to serve and contribute to others. And we naturally want to spread the word. So some of you are here because you have experienced the power of food to heal your life. Now, hopefully, you are gaining resources and support in this summit that can help you be a beacon and inspiration to others. Some of you are here with desperation or with aspiration for your own health and life. Wherever you are in the journey, you are welcome. And I want to make sure you all know that coaching is a powerful step for those of you who want to spread the word, who want to inspire others. And Food Revolution Network has created a plant-based coaching certificate where we walk folks through the journey to become a powerful and effective plant-based coach. And the skills we learn in this program benefit us in profound ways too, benefit our families in profound ways, and of course also could be a new career path. So if any of you are interested, check out certificate.foodrevolution.org. Our next cohort launches in January. The doors are open now, open until filled. We have only 300 spots maximum for the cohort. We already have over 250 deposits in the door. Again, go to certificate.foodrevolution.org if you are interested in joining in the next cohort of the plant-based coaching program. Chris said, these intros, outros are extraordinary. Thank you, Ocean, for being such a delightful host. Thank you, Chris. How sweet of you. So good to have you here with us. Cassie said, hello from Ohio. This is my 4th or 5th docuseries. Absolutely love them. Ocean, so sorry to hear about your dad. He was such a light in this dark world. Yes, Cassie, thank you. We miss him for sure in our family and in Food Revolution Network and in the world a lot. But I also have been so struck by the reality that we only grieve things when we're grateful for them. And so often it's when my heart opens to remember how much my dad loved me and the gifts he brought into this world that's when the tears start flowing. I don't know, to me gratitude and grief are completely inseparable right now. And they both opened me to more love. And so thank you for sharing in that. Thank you for honoring the light that he brought into this world. And now I really think all of us get to carry that light forward in our own special ways. Venetia said, sending love, light, and a big hello from Devon. Ocean, you are such a wonderful testament to what an incredible human John was. I was so thankful to him and to you for giving us access to information that can change and improve our lives. Venetia, thank you. And big hello and love back to you in Devon. Christine said, hello from Kentucky. I've completely changed my diet and got my Crohn's in remission, diabetes under control, and lost 110 pounds. I'm here to harvest knowledge to help other people. Christine, how wonderful. Congratulations. Thank you for sharing. And here's to you going even further to optimize your health and well-being and being a leader to inspire other folks. Again, I already mentioned this, but if you want to check out certificate.foodrevolution.org, you may find that plant-based coaching could be an incredible next step as you help other people. Janet asked, how will these sessions maybe help those of us with arthritis that causes horrible pain? Oh, Janet, I'm so sorry to hear that you're dealing with painful arthritis. Chronic pain can be so difficult, not just physically, but also emotionally. It can sap your will to live. You're not alone, and I'm really glad you're here with us. Throughout the summit, we're going to be exploring some of the most promising science-backed ways to reduce inflammation naturally. And the root cause in most forms of arthritis is chronic inflammation. We're going to dive into specific diet and lifestyle strategies that help quiet the inflammatory fire and support your joints. One thing that can be big is a whole food plant-based diet that's rich in vegetables and fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts and seeds, and spices. It's been shown in a lot of studies to reduce markers of inflammation and in some cases to reduce joint pain as well as stiffness. You may find that omega-3 fatty acids from flax and chia seeds, as well as spices like turmeric, especially when combined with black pepper, also leafy greens and berries are particularly helpful. It also can be good to stay hydrated, manage stress, and when you can do it, to have some gentle movement, maybe a bit of walking, yoga, water exercise, gentle stretching to support circulation and joint mobility without aggravating symptoms. Of course, it depends what you can do. In episode 3, we'll talk more about gut health, and that will also include inflammation and how to calm inflammation throughout the body, including the joints. And if you get the empowerment package, I want to recommend one particular expert interview, which is with Dr. Brooke Goldner, who has helped many people reverse symptoms of arthritis and lupus and other autoimmune conditions using nutritional approaches. One of my dearest friends was struggling with serious, debilitating rheumatoid arthritis at a young age. She was about 50, and she recently started working with Dr. Brooke Goldner after learning about her from us, implementing her protocol, and she is back to playing ultimate frisbee and farming and running and feeling probably 95% healed in just 2.5 months. So it's possible. You deserve to feel better. I hope this summit brings you new hope and real tools to support your healing journey. Sheila said, do you know if eating a whole food plant-based diet can improve the pain from idiopathic neuropathy? Well, Sheila, thank you for your question. And first of all, I am sorry to hear you're dealing with idiopathic neuropathy. I know nerve pain can be so painful and difficult, especially when the cause isn't understood. So there's no guaranteed cure, but there is growing evidence that a whole food plant-based diet may help to reduce symptoms and even improve nerve health for some people with neuropathy. And here's why. A plant-based diet is naturally anti-inflammatory, since many forms of neuropathy involve inflammation and oxidative stress in nerve tissues. Loading up on colorful fruits and vegetables, as well as nuts and seeds and legumes, could help to reduce that inflammation and support healing. Plant-based foods can also improve blood flow, which means more oxygen and more nutrients getting delivered to your nerves. That also might make a real difference. There's also the impact on metabolic health. Even in people without diabetes, a plant-strong diet can help stabilize blood sugar and insulin levels and can lower what are called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These compounds are known to damage nerves, so reducing them could help slow or even reverse some neuropathic symptoms. And then there's gut health. A fiber-rich diet feeds a healthier microbiome, and we now know that the gut and the nervous system are deeply connected. Supporting the gut can calm inflammation throughout the body and even influence how we perceive pain. Most of the research in this area has focused on diabetic neuropathy, but the same underlying principles may apply. In fact, some doctors working in lifestyle medicine have reported that their patients with idiopathic or other kinds of neuropathy have seen meaningful improvements when they switch to a plant-based diet, especially when it's combined with stress reduction, with regular gentle movement, and checking for any nutrient deficiencies. Especially look for B12 and vitamin D. Get your levels checked and see if there's any issue there. So it may not be a magic bullet, but a whole food plant-based diet could be a powerful tool in your healing journey. And I want you to know you are not alone. There is real hope, and we are wishing you relief and strength and continued healing and lots of love every step of the way. Linda said, in the past I tried a plant-based diet. It was great, an easy transition, except it was a challenge to get 100 grams of protein per day. I'm a 64-year-old woman, and it's important as I age to get enough protein in order to fight muscle loss. I went back to eating meat and fish. It was a challenge to eat 100 grams per day of protein and beans. I'm hoping to learn about some other additional protein options. Well, Linda, thank you for your message, and I'm really glad to hear that going plant-based was an easy transition for you overall. You're right that getting enough protein as we age is important, especially for maintaining muscle mass. And you're not alone. A lot of people are wondering if they can meet their protein needs on a plant-based diet. And the good news is that a well-planned approach can absolutely provide for your protein needs. Beans are only one piece of the puzzle. Foods like lentils and tofu and tempeh and edamame are all in the legume family, right? But then you also got quinoa. Soy milk can be great. Nuts and seeds, oats even, and whole grains can all make meaningful contributions. Every little bit adds up, and it all combines throughout the day. Let's say you enjoy a lentil stew with quinoa and a sprinkle of hemp seeds. You're probably getting over 30 grams of protein in one meal. Maybe a smoothie, like I mentioned in this episode, with a couple cups of unsweetened Eden soy milk, each of which delivers 12 grams per cup. Adding in some chia seeds and peanut butter and hemp seeds. If you want, you can go further and add a scoop of clean plant-based protein powder. You're getting 35, 40, maybe 50 grams of protein right there. Add in whole grains, vegetables, nuts and seeds during the day. It all adds up. It can be a little more involved than just grilling a piece of chicken, but once you get in the right groove, it can become almost second nature. Now, all that said, I don't know that you necessarily need 100 grams per day. That is pretty high. We'll be talking about this more in depth in episode 7, really looking at the science on protein and how much is optimal at different stages of life. But generally speaking, we're looking at maybe at your age, 64, maybe 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. And when we say body weight, we're aiming for healthy body weight. So if there's a lot of excess weight, then you don't necessarily need to get enough protein to balance at that level of body weight, because hopefully as you eat a whole foods diet, those pounds are going to come down, especially a whole foods plant-rich diet, and if you're not getting too many calories overall. So those are just some thoughts. You may find that 75 grams a day is plenty, but maybe a little more. It depends on a bunch of different factors. We'll again go into this more in episode 7, so stay tuned. Sheila said, I started eating a whole food plant-based diet about 9 weeks ago. I love it. I feel so good. I've lost 30 pounds, have gotten off or reduced some of my medications, and haven't had heartburn or acid reflux since I started. Sheila, how wonderful. Congratulations, in just 9 weeks, so many benefits. It's amazing what can happen when we give our body the right fuel. How fast things can change. How much better we can feel. I'm so glad you're experiencing this. And folks, I want to say it really comes down to food, right? I mean, you you can't out-exercise your way from a bad diet. You know, when you give your body the right fuel, your nervous system is calmer. It's easier to meditate. It's easier to feel good. It's easier to cultivate loving relationships because you look better, you feel better, you're more alive, you're more whole. And when you lose excess weight, it's easier to exercise. So all the components of lifestyle medicine get easier with food. And when we talk about food, it really helps if we can enjoy it, doesn't it? That's why every day of the summit, we have 3 more recipes of the day from Nicole D'Andrea Russert, RDN, my co-host in this summit. And today's first recipe of the day is Golden Sunrise Smoothie, which is that creamy, energizing blend that's perfect for kickstarting your day. It combines the natural sweetness of ripe banana with the richness of gut-nourishing plant-based yogurt. You get in some organic rolled oats, and they bring you plenty of fiber. Tahini brings a hint of nuttiness and even more protein. The smoothie is naturally sweetened with dates, and you get an amazing blend of spices like turmeric and cinnamon and nutmeg and a dash of black pepper to enhance flavor and health benefits. Maca powder adds an extra boost of energy. It is an amazing way to start the day or have a lovely snack. Next, we have the Napa Szechuan Slaw, which combines crisp Napa cabbage, bell pepper, and cucumber with protein and antioxidant-rich black rice and edamame. It's tossed in a creamy, tangy dressing of almond butter and tamari and spices, and topped with crunchy almond slivers. Finally, today we have tempeh satay, which is a delectable appetizer. It's a delightful fusion of tempeh and a rich, savory miso peanut sauce. I am salivating looking at that picture. You can marinate the organic tempeh and grill it to perfection, creating a tender and flavorful base. Then add in the miso peanut sauce, and oh my gosh, this is incredible. You can also garnish with lime wedges and cilantro and green onions so you can impress guests and get the saliva flowing. There are so many wonderful ways to enjoy healthy, nutritious food. And we are happy to share 3 more recipes of the day every day in this summit. Please cook along as we go and share your culinary creation experiences in the comment section every day. It's a wonderful way to make this summit take root in your life deliciously. Linda said, I purchased frozen vegetables because I can't use up fresh vegetables before they spoil. However, the variety is diminished eating that way. Any suggestions? Well, Linda, thank you for asking. Frozen vegetables are a smart choice for cutting down on waste. And the cool thing is they have incredible nutritional benefits. In fact, often the nutrients are locked in because they're picked at the peak of ripeness and freshness, and they're frozen right away. Nutrients get locked in there, so they could even be, in some cases, more nutritious than fresh vegetables that have been sitting at the back of a fridge for a week or 2. You're right, though, that variety can feel limited sometimes. One option is to buy fresh seasonal produce and freeze it yourself. That way, you'll have exactly all the same options. The simplest way is to wash and prep and spread the pieces on a baking sheet until they're solid, and then transfer them to freezer-safe containers where they can last for 3 to 6 months. This not only expands your options, but also helps you reduce waste. You can also buy fresh veggies, freeze some, and then have some fresh. Depending on your store, you may also find more seasonal frozen items like butternut squash or cranberries, for example, at certain times of year. It can be worth asking the store manager if they'd consider carrying smaller units of less common frozen vegetables. Local or independent groceries might be more flexible with specific requests. Linda said, as an introvert, I don't like to be around people as much. I do volunteer so I don't isolate myself, but it's not easy. I have few true friends. I don't feel lonely, so it would be easy to just stay secluded. Well, Linda, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate your honesty. And I want to say there's no one-size-fits-all formula here. It sounds like you've found a rhythm that works for you. Volunteering, staying connected enough not to feel isolated, and also honoring your nature as an introvert. And that's something you could respect and even celebrate if it's working for you. You know, being alone isn't the same as being lonely. Some people can be in a crowd and still feel incredibly disconnected. Others, and it sounds like you may be one of them, feel pretty content and full in their own company. There is a beautiful kind of peace that can come from being at home with yourself, loving who you are, solitude can be a kind of sanctuary. At the same time, I want to honor the value of the true friends you do have. Quality over quantity can be so fulfilling and important. And if you feel like you would be happier or more fulfilled with more connection, then maybe this is a little invitation, little nudge to connect more deeply if it would bring more love and meaning into your life. And maybe not. You get to find out what's right for you. Thank you for being on the journey and for showing up in a way that's real. I'm really glad you're here. Susie said, I purchased the early priced empowerment package. I want to share your science-backed knowledge, but it's difficult to get loved ones on board every day. Now I have it forever to share when the student is ready. I try to watch the summit every year. Looking forward to the refresh. Well, Susie, how wonderful. Thank you. And congratulations on getting the empowerment package. And I'm so glad that you will now have it to share with loved ones. It can be amazing to take one of these episodes and sit some loved ones down and watch an episode together. Or an episode a day if you're a passionate, engaged family, any time of the year, not just during summit season. So congratulations, and we look forward to working with you for a food revolution, hopefully for a long time to come. Jennifer is a registered nurse. She said, good morning, I'm an employee health and preventive medicine nurse from Alexandria, Virginia. I suffer from autoimmune Graves' disease and interstitial cystitis, and I know firsthand the positive impact of diet on disease management and quality of life. Do you by any chance offer discount packages to healthcare professionals who are looking to improve their clinical teaching practices? Jennifer, thank you for being here. Sorry to hear about the autoimmune conditions you're suffering from and the interstitial cystitis. And thank you for being involved in the healthcare profession. We love our nurses and we want to support you in spreading the word professionally. We don't have a specific discount package, but we do have scholarships, and we're going to give you one. So we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. You will have the entire summit for life, all of the recordings, episodes, transcripts, the live parts with me, as well as all 45 expert interviews, so you can go deeper and share what you're learning in your work and with the people in your practice. I know you will put it to good use. Congratulations. I hope it supports you in your health journey and in your journey as a professional. And enjoy. Our team will follow up with you. And congratulations to also all of our new empowerment package owners, including Sherry from Ohio, Jonathan from Missouri, Cynthia from Washington, Shelley from California, Daniela from New York, Thomas from Florida, Christy from New Zealand, Catherine from Idaho, Manuel from Illinois, Fee from Australia, Serena from Massachusetts, Ellen from Kansas. Thank you all so much for investing in your health and in our mission and helping us to do this work and spread this free summit far and wide. We are so grateful to you for stepping up and getting the empowerment package, and I know you all will love it. If anyone listening wants to own your own empowerment package for life, just click the link for the empowerment package and you can get it all for the summit special price. Now, every day of the summit, we don't just have the live broadcast and the episodes. We also have 3 more featured expert interviews that are available as part of the free summit. Of course, with the empowerment package, you get all 45, not just the ones we air during the summit, and you have them for life. The 3 expert interviews for today's episode are with Dr. Christopher Gardner on Beyond Genetics, what the Twin Study tells us about the optimal diet for humans. I'm a father of twins. I find this fascinating. Dr. Michael Greger on how not to age, the keys to longevity, gut health, and disease prevention. And Dr. Michael Clapper on longevity and disease prevention, how to transform health at any age. Again, all 3 of these will be available once we start the replay period at the end of today's broadcast for you to dive in and enjoy. They are incredible. Kathy said, I'm very concerned about the rate of mental health issues and the rise in preventable physical health issues. I'm always looking for ways to improve mine and my family's health. Well, Kathy, I am concerned about this as well. You are so in the right place for yourself and for your family. And I think you're going to love tomorrow when we're going to focus on brain health. It could just blow your mind and rock your world. All right, folks, we are now approaching the end of day 1 of the Food Revolution Summit docuseries. To express your opinions on today's episode and the summit so far, and to find out what other folks are saying, post and engage in the comment section on our broadcast page. Make sure to refresh the comments using the button you see for them so you can see the latest ones. You can also join in the conversation on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Food Revolution Network. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Food Revolution Network. And come on back and join us tomorrow when we go live at 7:45 Pacific, 10:45 Eastern, 2:45 p.m. GMT, or at 11 Eastern Time when we start rolling episode 2, Boosting Brain Health, the science of sharpening your mind and protecting your memory. Tomorrow's episode is incredible, so do not miss it. In the meanwhile, you can post your comments and join in the conversation, share your top takeaways from today, and go ahead and watch the replays, which will start as soon as we finish today's broadcast. You can also enjoy the expert interviews, the recipes of the day, and check out the empowerment package. We wish you a beautiful and thriving day, and this is Ocean Robbins, signing off from day 1 in the Food Revolution Summit, and looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Speaking of which, here's a peek at what's coming up. Alzheimer's, brain fog, and mental health conditions are devastating millions of lives.
When you lose your memories, you lose everything. And so it's really the most devastating diagnosis, and people tend to spiral downward, and it's a fundamentally isolating experience anyway.
We look at an ounce of prevention versus a pound of cure as it relates to Alzheimer's. Even a pound isn't going to cut it. You can get all the pounds you want. There is no cure.
But now, get ready for some really empowering news.
There is a lot of evidence that shows that when you expose yourself to the right kind of lifestyle factors, whether it's diet, exercise, restorative sleep, optimization of cognitive activities, our brain cells are able to make more and more connections, whether we're 9-year-old or 99 years old. It just depends on how we take care of ourselves.
I got to say, the page completely turned. 2024, Dr. Dean Ornish, who I got to say has never been afraid to take on a big challenge.
It's hard to change, to reverse a chronic disease. And the reason we were the first to show it in all these different conditions is that most people didn't go far enough. But now we're finding we can give people hope in an area that matters most that nothing else works in. And if it works this well for people who already have early Alzheimer's, it probably works even better to help prevent it.
The drug is a healthy diet and lifestyle. So if a healthy diet works, let's prescribe what we know works.
I think it's pretty clear from the evidence we have that if you take care of your brain, it'll take care of you.
In this episode, we'll uncover what's driving the rise in brain fog, memory loss, and dementia, and how you can take control. From groundbreaking research and lifestyle strategies to the powerful connection between diet, mental health, and sleep, you will discover practical steps to sharpen your mind, boost your mood, and protect your brain for years to come. At Food Revolution Network, our mission is healthy, ethical, sustainable food for all. We want kids to learn about healthy food in school. We want doctors to learn how nutrition impacts health in medical school. We want the routine use of antibiotics banned from factory farms. We want a world where everyone, regardless of their ethnic or economic background, has knowledge of and access to healthy food for their family. We want a world in which heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, obesity, and diabetes are rare, and in which vibrant health is the norm. We're spreading the word, and we're standing for change. And with every empowerment package purchased, we make a donation to Trees for the Future, so they can plant another organic fruit or nut tree in a low-income community. Join this movement and stand with us for a real food revolution.